Hello drone pilots, welcome to Paul Taste, a channel with the aim of creating a drone community to help us to grow our confidence and skills together. Now in this video what I'd like to do is create an ultimate guide to where you can and cannot fly your drone. It's more focused in the UK, but it will also have information for other parts of the world as well. Now this has been sparked off after James asked if he could fly in the Highlands or not. It looks like a massive part of the Highlands is restricted, which it is, but it isn't. So we're going to go into that into more detail, and also I've done a video on about restricted areas, and again there's still a bit of confusion about where you can and cannot fly. So hopefully this video will answer all the questions you have about where you can fly. Okay guys, so when you start looking at where you can and cannot fly, it can be very difficult, particularly for a hobbyist pilot, to know where it's legal and illegal to fly. There's lots of different apps out there, there's different rules, legislations, and so hopefully this video is going to give you all the information you need to know where you can and cannot fly, but more importantly, give you the direction of where to go to get that information. And I do get a lot of comments saying, oh, it looks like you can't fly in London, it looks like you can't fly in most area around Heathrow, like for kilometres and kilometres of space. There's places in the Highlands, Peak District. It all looks like these are places you just cannot fly. And if you're looking to get in a drone and you look on some of these apps, it looks like I just can't fly half of the UK. I'm not going to bother. So that's not quite the case. This video should clear this up for you. So the first thing I want to start off by doing is talking about the DJI Fly app. Now the DJI Fly app, obviously if you're flying a DJI aircraft, will be the go-to app that most beginners would go to. However, it is by far probably the worst app for this kind of information. For example, if we look over London here, we can see, like for example, the airports like Heathrow. We can see it comes out in a cone shape. It's not necessarily that shape. It's actually there's actually two runways alongside each other, and it doesn't open up in a cone shape. And if we click on here for information, it says you can fly within this area, but up to 150 feet or 150 feet. And that's just not the case. And then if we look at London, for example, we've got this big red, where's it gone? There we go. We've got this big red area here. This is an enhanced warning zone. It's saying it may be restricted. This is actually not a restricted zone at all. This is restricted for helicopters, not for drone pilots. Until recently, we didn't have the City of London restriction area in there. And it's just a bit of a mess, and it's not quite accurate, and it's not the best app to go to find the information we need to fly our drones legally. So my advice would be, don't put all your faith into the DJI Fly app. It's just it's not the best one for it, and it's not always correct or up to date. Now the first app I'd like to cover isn't necessarily the best app. This is AirMap. It will give us a lot of information. We can see the CTR zones, we can see all the airports, and we can see it's giving us the correct information for the airports. There's runways are a straight line. I believe in the UK there are a few bits missing though, such as NOTAMS, which is a notice to airmen, and these are temporarily restricted zones. But the good thing about this app is it works anywhere in the world. So for example, if I want to see what it's like in New York, I can type that in. Let's go to New York City, United States. And there we go. We've got a lot of information there about where we can and cannot fly. We've got the JFK airport here and the restriction zone down below. So there's a lot of information there. And if you like traveling a lot, this app will be useful to have on your phone if you want to fly in other countries. So now, if you live in the UK, a great app to have on your phone is the Altitude Angel Drone Assist app. And we can click on this, and this is going to give us a lot of information. Now just make sure you go to the top left hand corner here and look at the menu, and make sure we've got everything ticked on. So here we can see, London's always a good example because it's got a lot of red around. And if you looked at that as it is, you would assume that you basically just can't fly in London or any area around Slough. This is not actually the case. This is just giving you a lot of information, and actually maybe a bit too much information. But as you would expect, all airports are restricted flight zones. So obviously we cannot fly in these. But it's more accurate than the DJI Fly app. You can see we've got the straight lines, not the cone lines like the DJI app has. And the circles, which is the radius around the airport, and which you're not allowed to fly. So this is going to give us a lot of information. But if we look at London, we'll see there's this big red area here. It says we cannot fly, and this is actually a CTR, which is a controlled traffic region. Now, to all hobbyist pilots, this won't apply. This is only going to apply to manufacturers that wish to test heavy drones within this area. They're going to have to ask permission. But basically, for all hobbyist pilots, we can pretty much just ignore CTRs. Just know there's going to be more air traffic in there, so you're more likely to be seeing manned aviation in these areas. So CTRs are actually really easy to identify. Obviously, we can click on there and we can see it's got CTR written on there. But basically, around major airports such as Gatwick, Edinburgh, Glasgow and Heathrow, you will see these outlines, and they stand out quite a lot. If you want more information about CTRs, I have a really good video with Colin Froud. It gives us all the information. He's a senior trainer for iRed, so he knows his stuff, and it will put your mind at ease with CTRs. It gives you everything in a lot of detail. Now, something else that Colin's also said is that this red area here, this is actually not for drone pilots. He's confirmed this with the CAA. It is actually aimed towards helicopter pilots, so this is not something we need to worry about. So now, if we have a look at London, the only areas we really can't fly that are restricted are going to be the area around Battersea Park, and a few restricted areas such as Hyde Park and the City of London. And then we've got like the airport, and I think the Isle of Dogs as well. So there are still quite a lot of areas you can legally fly around London. Having said that, there's going to be lots of buildings around, a lot of congestion, so you're going to have to use a smaller drone such as the Mini 2, for example. So another thing I can point out is it doesn't just give you restricted areas, it also gives you areas of hazard. So if I zoom in a lot closer, we can see here we've got the heli route going through there, and let's zoom in closer still. There's going to be loads of these around. So here we go. If we look at Patterson Park here, we can click on there and see there's a school. Obviously, this is not necessarily a hazardous area. You can still legally fly over there, but there's going to be massive privacy concerns, and it's probably a place you're going to want to avoid flying. And then next door we've got the park. Again, it's going to be an increased risk of people being there, so it's just for you to analyse the hazards. So yellow areas are things you just may want to take extra info into account and decide if you really need to fly there or not, but they are not restricted. We've also got to take into account NOTAMs. So this yellow circle with the blue outline, this is a NOTAM. Let's click on there. And a NOTAM is a notice to airmen. And this is going to be places that we won't be allowed to fly soon. So if we click on there, we can scroll down and it will give us the information from the 20th of February 2022 to the 24th of February 2022. We're not going to be able to fly here because there's a searchlight display. So this is just something else to bear in mind. So we've got restricted areas which we just cannot fly without permission, which are going to be around airports and certain sensitive areas around London, for example, and also military zones. And then we've got places that may be a bad idea to fly, so we need to look into it and see why we need that footage, or why we need to fly there, and balance up the risks. And then we've also got things like the NOTAMs, which are going to be restricted areas that will be coming soon for a certain period of time. Now, I also quickly want to talk about the Highlands. Now, if we click on this area, we can see it is an airspace restricted area, but if we scroll down, it's actually an intermittent airspace. This basically means it's restricted by a NOTAM periodically, or a predefined schedule. So basically, this means that it's only temporarily restricted, and there will be a schedule when you can and cannot fly there. And this is actually where the Drone Assist app starts to break down, because it doesn't tell us the times that it is, and it doesn't tell us the times when we can and cannot fly there. So what I'm going to do is close down the Drone Assist app there, and then we can head over to the PC to go on to notaminfo.com, and this is going to give us a lot more detailed information. So Drone Assist app will cover most of the things that we need to know, but for specialised areas we can get more information from notaminfo.com. Okay, so this is notaminfo.com/UK map. I'll drop a link below the like button. Now, at first this looks really scary. There's a lot of information on here, but actually this is mostly to do with manned aviation,
or entirely with manned aviation. So what we can do is click these boxes here and get rid of all of these. Next, we can go through to airspace details. So what I'm going to do is click show default airspace, and this is a lot of drone information. And then if we come down to show offshore NOTAM restricted areas, we can show advisory areas if we want. And then also show offshore NOTAM danger areas. You're probably not going to be flying in these. So I'm going to turn this off for now. But what we can see is here up in Scotland, this is one of the NOTAM areas, one of the NOTAM restricted areas. So we can zoom in on this. So if we click on here, we can see it's the R610A restricted area, the Highlands, and it's restricted Monday to Friday only. It's by NOTAM. So basically it's a pre-scheduled NOTAM, as the Drone Assist app said, but on here we can see it's only restricted Monday to Friday, meaning we can fly here on weekends. So that's good information to know. The other good thing about NOTAM Info is that it basically gives us all the information we need to know. See here, we've got it's a restricted area. We know it's R157 Hyde Park area. This is the one that I flew in. When you go and fill in a non-standard flight form to get permission to fly in these areas, you know what it's called, and it's easy to get the permission. If you would like more information about flying in restricted areas, I've done a video on this. I'll drop a link in the top right hand corner now, or down below the like button. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is Skywise. Now, Skywise is the CAA's way of getting all the information out to people. Again, I'll drop a link below the like button below. So what we can do is go onto the Skywise website and click subscribe. And then we can fill out all this information, just our email address and our name. And if we scroll down to click drones, and then we go subscribe, this is basically going to give us all the information. This is going to give us all the relevant drone information, new drone laws, new NOTAMs that have come out, when they come out, and it will give us a lot of information. Now for me, this is my least favorite because it doesn't have the map to show it on. So if we go to view alerts, for example, here, we're just interested in the drone alerts. We can see that there's been feedback from the Chirp Air Transport, new edition, blah, blah, blah. And there we go. Here we go. We've got expired restricted airspace. So this would have been a NOTAM. And there's a lot of signal jamming trials going on around the Ministry of Defence areas. This happens a lot. So here is all the restricted areas that have been restricted and now are no longer restricted. They send this through by email. So for example, when I booked a flight to the Isle of Man, I got an email a few days later saying they were doing jamming trials, so I couldn't actually fly there for half the time I was in the Isle of Man. But it's just good information to know. It's up to date and it just comes through to your email. But again, it's hard to know the exact area. They just tell you where it is. So we can then again go back to flight planning and get more information on this. So now if we just go over all the apps and just give them a brief look over, we're going to start off with the DJI. It's nice and convenient. We've got it on our phones and on the PCs, but it's not the most accurate and it's not the most reliable app to be using. If we're flying somewhere we believe may be restricted, it will not be the best app to use. Now if we go and look at AirMap, this is a good app to use. It gives us a fair amount of information and it's valid all around the world. That's a big thing for me. It's also an app as well as being a website as well. The only downside is there's no guarantee it's going to have the latest UK information, although sometimes it does. Now going in a bit further, we've got the Drone Assist app. Now this is only an app, it is not a website, but it's convenient to have on your phone. It will give you a lot of detailed information and all of it will pretty much be correct and up to date, but there may be a few bits missing. It's also UK only, so it's going to be more specialised, but also only useful in the UK. So now if we go and look at NOTAMinfo.com, this is going to give us a lot of up-to-date information. The biggest downside is I don't believe it's in app form yet, so the only information we're going to be able to get will be from the websites. So you can access this from your phone, it's just a bit fiddly, so I prefer to do this from the PC. It's also UK only, so it's going to be more specialised, but also only useful in the UK. And then lastly, we're looking at Skywise. Skywise is going to have all the latest information about everything drone. It's going to be sent to you directly from the CAA, so it's going to be always up to date. It's always going to be correct. The downside is there's going to be no maps to see where the restricted zones are, so we're going to go back to that's when we're going to start looking at notaminfo.com or Drone Assist.
Okay guys, so that's a lot of information there to take in. If you do have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comment section below the like button. Also, I have a website where you can join a forum and ask any questions you would like on there. Again, I'll drop a link to that below the like button. That's it for this video. I hope to see you in the next one.